It's time for one of my favorite segments. Yes, indeed, America. It is true. Can we all just get along? As Martin Lawrence would say, let's talk about it. New Jersey Democrats have proposed a new piece of legislation Monday that would allow people to vote while they are in prison. Like several other states, New Jersey does not allow felons to vote after their conviction, including while they're on probation or parole. If passed, the state would join just two other states, Vermont and Maine, in allowing inmates to cast a vote. The measure comes as a handful of other states are re-examining laws that disenfranchise prisoners, like in Florida, where more than 1.5 million people can't vote due to prior convictions. At a time when our democracy is under such attack, it is good to see that these New Jersey lawmakers are stepping up to do the right thing. I really do believe this one, because here's my thing. The whole job of our prison system, what it should be, and that's why it's called what it's called, is to correct. It's called corrections. In some states, it's called correction and rehabilitation. But what you end up having is no correction, no rehabilitation, and recidivism rates that are through the roof. People leave jail and they come right back. It's like a revolving door at Macy's. Seriously, America, we've got to do something about it. And the one thing that we can do is do everything in our power to make these individuals citizens of a community once they return. Now, this Democratic proposal is very bold. It's very bold. It's very bold. Some might think it's out of mainstream. I understand that. I definitely understand that. But there is also something to be said about the ideal of having individuals who are part of our democracy vote. Like, I think this ideal that when you put somebody in jail, you can erase them from our society is just not true. And if you really think about it, that's what we've tried to do. We put people in jail, we label them as felons, and then we erase them from our society. And when you are unknown in a community, and when you're erased from society, there's only one thing for you to go back to. The crime that got you in jail in the first place. We should be doing everything in our power as a country to make sure that when prisoners enter jail, they never go back again. Let's take a listen to Republican Senator Gerald Cardinelli and what he had to say about this particular voting law.
An absurdity.
Senator Jerry Cardinelli is the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He says it's okay to restore voting rights after someone finishes and fulfills his or her corrections commitment, but not before.
And think of the unintended consequence. Prison facilities are very frequently a lot of people. Forms a voting block. How would you like to say, I want to go and talk to the mayor? Oh, he's in cell 57. Come on, let's get real.
So here's my problem with this quote. There's two words he said there that was shocking to me. And the words are vote diluted. If you are an American citizen in this country and you live in America and you're part of a community and you pay taxes, or maybe you don't because you're poor, the idea that you would say that our vote gets diluted, you know what dilutes our vote, Senator? Voter suppression. That dilutes our vote. You know what dilutes our vote? Gerrymandering. That dilutes our vote, and that dilutes our democracy. What you are saying is not only wrong, but it's undemocratic. It's not what our founders really wanted, to be frank with you. Because to some of our greatest heroes in this country broke the law and committed crimes. People forget that when Rosa Parks sat down on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, she broke the law. And at the time, she was a felon for breaking the law. People forget that the individuals that crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge 51 years ago broke the law. People forget that Martin Luther King broke the law. People forget that John Lewis broke the law. People forget that the individuals, the brave LGBTQ people in Stonewall broke the law. All these individuals under what our current society is today would be seen as felons and their right to vote will be taken away. Too bad all those people that I mentioned, a lot of them have statues in our Congress, in Statuary Hall. So this ideal and this notion that you can erase Americans because they've chosen to break the law is almost un-American, because we forget that our founders of this country broke the law. We forget that our founders, many of them were killed at the stakes. Many of them were beheaded for having the Boston Tea Party and for breaking the law. They were felons. But if they weren't felons, we would not be the United States of America. So when you disenfranchise people for making mistakes or for breaking the law, you are going against everything that is American. People forget that in 1776, we were a ragtag group of thugs that created the 13 colonies, which eventually became the United States of America. It is so shocking to me how quickly people forget our history. My mom always used to say this to me. She would say, son, if you forgot where you came from, you'll forget where you're going. And I think those words cannot be truer today, because if you look at our Congress, you have a directionless Congress because all of them have managed to forget where we came from. We came from a group of felons. We came from a group of lawbreakers. Harriet Tubman broke the law when she traveled and navigated to the South to free slave after slave after slave in the Underground Railroad. In this particular law, if Republicans were to have their way, Harriet Tubman would not be allowed to vote in this country. Not because she's black, but because she would have been a convicted felon if caught for breaking the law and freeing slaves via the Underground Railroad. Today, Harriet Tubman stands as one of the world's most prominent women in history. So let's be very clear about what you see happening here. The laws that stop felons to vote in New Jersey were created in 1844, almost 200 years ago. These laws are still in the books, and these laws are dictating our policy today. But over and over again, you see brave lawmakers, you see brave governors, you see brave senators, you see brave House of Delegates and legislatures stand up and say, we need change. Former Governor Terry McAuliffe unilaterally restored the voting rights on a case-by-case basis for over 172,000 former felons in the state of Virginia. According to one estimate, 1 in 13 voting age blacks are disenfranchised at a rate more than 4 times that of non-African Americans. Right now in Florida, in November, there will be, and we've talked about this on the Fowler Show before, there will be a ballot issue where the Floridians will be able to reinstate the right of over 1.5 million people who have done their time. They've done the crime. They've paid their debt to society. They are now part of community. They are now living in our next doors. They are now paying taxes. Many of them own small businesses. They are everything that the correction system is supposed to do. They did their time. They committed a crime. They paid their time. They've rehabilitated themselves, and they're now part of community, thriving and growing, but yet they don't have the right to vote. America, the right to vote is fundamental. This weekend, we celebrate the commemoration of the walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where American citizens were savagely beaten for the right to vote, for the right to cast a ballot in America, the world's oldest and best democracy. And yet still, in the oldest and best democracy in the world, people are eliminated and people are stopped from participating in that democracy. This is a problem of epic proportion. Yes, the Russians have threatened our democracy, but so has state legislature after state legislature after state legislature by stopping and suppressing the vote, by stopping people who have paid their debt to society from voting. This, America, is also a threat to our democracy. Let's be very clear. And this is a bipartisan issue on both sides of the aisle. On both some Democrats and reasonable Republicans agree that if you paid your debt to society, you should have the right to vote. Republicans like Bob Dole have said it. Democrats like Terry McAuliffe have done it. And now it's time for the American people to catch up with them.